Riq the Critic, when she come into your place, yo, you best not forget it. She gon' tell you how it is, cause she's Riq the Critic. When she all up in your city, yo, you best not forget it. Let you know if she like it and if she get with it. Let the whole world know and be the first to admit it. Let you know if it's good and if she give
Hi, I'm Riq the Critic, and thank you for allowing me to be in your house. This is December. This is the last month of the year, and next year we'll be talking about 2012 and all the new things that are going on. Today, I'm going to talk to you about um, some financial institutions that I'm not happy with. And my guest today is Mr. Waldo, and we're going to talk about just some things that we need to do going into 2012 to kind of safeguard what's going on, and some things that we can do to actually fight back. So just sit down, relax, and we're going to talk and have a really good time, and hopefully you'll get a lot of information. One of the things that I do want to say to you before we move on is that Cuisinart, the people that make the waffle makers or the griddles and the coffee makers and all that, you know what? Let me tell you, I'm they're on the suck wall for me, mainly because what they've done is they make a product that lasts 3 years, and the 3 years and one day later, the whole thing breaks down. So I had a coffee no, toaster that I had for over 3 years. And so when I called them to ask them about replacing it because the thing didn't go up and down, when I talked to them about it, what they said was is that, well, the warranty has expired. I said, well, how long is the warranty? And they said the warranty was 3 years. So 3 years and one day after, the warranty's no good. So you know what? They're making very disposable products. To be very honest with you, I've used my grandmother's toaster and she died at 100 years old. I've used her toaster and I could still use a GE product. So Cuisinart, we don't want to buy from you. You guys, hey, do not buy anything from them. And I'll be talking about them even in 2012, okay? Well, I'm through with them. Their customer service sucks. When I called them, they said to me that there was nothing they could do about it. I said, you can't replace the parts. You can't do anything. No, we can't do anything about it. So you know what? The heck with them. We can buy much better products because they clearly make an inferior product. We'll buy some better products. And in 2012, we won't give Cuisinart a nickel, okay? I'm here for you, and you guys call me and let me know when things are going wrong. My girlfriend Pam actually got the toaster, and we went back and forth on this thing. It's just crazy. Anyway, and I'm really pissed off at Wells Fargo too. But anyway, before I get into anything, let me introduce my guest is Mr. Waldo. Mr. Waldo, are you there? Mr.
With
Waldo,
you.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Great. I am just welcome to Riq the Critic, and I know that we've talked about some things in the past. Last month I had Mr. Bill on, and we talked about some things. Today I have Mr. Waldo on. We're going to talk about some financial institutions. We're going to talk about some things that you can do. Because Wells Fargo, as frankly, is not one of my best friends, and you very well know, as my viewers, that I've had a lot of incidents with Wells Fargo. But listen, I was very interested to know when I was talking to Mr. Waldo earlier, we were talking about some financial institutions. Mr. Waldo, remember when we talked earlier about, we talked about Wells Fargo, we talked about that $5 charge with Bank of
Yes,
America?
absolutely.
Right. Could you go a little bit into it, my viewers? I know that when we talked, we were talking about how that thing kind of got shot down. And my question to you is, how do we, what do we do to kind of safeguard? I mean, what can we do to actually? I know we're going into a cashless society. I know that today you said something to me very, very interesting when you said something about the gold, the backing, the gold. What did you tell me earlier today?
Well, of course, gold has been doing well until the last few days when it seems to have just fallen over the edge of a cliff. Gold was doing quite well, and now all of a sudden it is not doing well at all. And the reasons for that are probably multifold. We have to realize and recognize that we no longer live in a world where events happen in isolation. There are things that take place outside of this country, many, many thousands of miles away, that affect our markets very gravely. It is probable, now, in fact, talking about markets, today was an up day in the stock market, which means there was probably good news with regard to the banks in Europe maybe being about to solve some of their problems. But if indeed that news should go in the other direction, if it should go south instead of going north, then it's very probable that we will see continued trouble in our own stock market and equity markets. And that is just the way it's going to be. The whole world is connected these days. And believe me, something that seems to be good for the liver is bad for the spleen, and vice versa. There's very little that we, the common man, or common even investors, can do about it. And that's simply the way it is.
Now you said something about the gold, the price of gold going down. I know that in recent times past that the gold was, I think it went up to like $1,800 an ounce or something to that effect. And you're saying that it did a drop. Was it a big drop or just kind of like it went down a couple $100 or 50 bucks or what?
Gold, as you say, was doing quite well. And then very recently, the last few days or last week or so, there has been what amounted to almost I'll call it a precipitous drop.
And
just fell off the edge of a cliff.
And how does that affect us as consumers?
Well, consumers almost always take the hit, while the people who are traders and middlemen usually manage to make a few bucks or a lot of bucks. It doesn't matter what happens, they seem to be covered. We have to understand that when we play in those markets on any level, we are at the mercy of the professionals and the people who know how to make money in the markets, whether they go up, down, or sideways. And that is the thing to keep in mind. But there is always a way to make money, some money, whether the market is moving up, whether it's moving down, whether it's moving sideways. About the only way those people don't make money is if the markets don't move at all, which doesn't happen. You know, this is a world of action, and everything is in motion, always. And only when the markets stop do those folks not make money. It's a little bit like if you stop moving, the first thing people will figure is, well, she's dead. And that would probably be the case, because
yes.
while you're alive, you will move,
yes.
if only to breathe a little. But and the markets are the same way. If they're moving, they're alive, and somebody's making something. The only time that money isn't being made is if there's no movement at all. If the whole thing were to become static, then you could say, well, I don't know what's going on. It must be dead. But short of that, somebody is profiting.
So now, what do you, because as we roll into 2012, what do you think would have been, I know you and I talked about some energy alternatives, but what do you think as, pardon me, as consumers, because not a lot of us are well versed in the stock market. Not a lot of us were able to purchase a lot of gold and kind of hold back on it. And even if we did, so you said it plummeted a little bit today. So even if we did stockpile some gold, we still are, you know, probably back almost in the middle stage again, you know, in the middle. But what I'm saying to you is, what do you see 2012? What do you see? How do you see us going? I know when we talked about some things earlier, we talked about the energy, alternative energy, but what do you see us heading in 2012?
I think that 2012 will show us what we usually find in election years. There will be the appearance of a hard-working Congress and legislature trying to turn the country around and to implement anything that they can sell the American public as good for its welfare, whether it is or isn't. That's what they'll be trying to convince us of. And so we'll see a great deal of activity, which I characterized as something that Shakespeare would have regarded as much ado about nothing. And that is about what it will amount to. It will be a great deal of nothingness, because when the smoke clears, we'll be exactly where we are, which is basically nowhere. The middle class in America, we have to remember, is shrinking so fast that there comes a day when you won't be able to find the middle class at all. You will have the rich, and you will have the poor and the sub-poor. And as for what's in between, you wouldn't be able to find it with the magnifying glass. And that, I think, is where we are going to wake up and realize that we are. The latest numbers and statistics on the poor people in America now indicate that 1 out of every 2 is barely above the poverty line and maybe not above it. The social programs, there's just a plethora of them, and the number of people who qualify or even who need to be on them is increasing daily. We are no longer a country of affluence or affluent people. The American economy and the Americans who used to make it what it was at one time, we're all in the toilet. And I rather suspect, and I'm sad to say, but we're probably going to remain there.
I think that I think that Obama will get another 4-year term. I think that when that term comes, I mean, when that happens, because we don't really have, the Republicans really don't have a solid candidate, I think that it's going to turn around. I don't think it's so gloom and doom. I mean, I feel like there's a hope. I think that there's some things that are going to come about that are going to present a change for us. I see a better 2012 than I saw in the last 4 years. I really do. But I'm hearing you, Mr. Waldo, and you're talking, it's kind of like, well, it's no hope, it's gloom, it's doom. I don't see that. I really think that we've got a great chance at bouncing back and our economy bouncing back and moving forward.
I certainly hope that you're right. That would be wonderful if it could happen. But we have to remember that we're talking, when we talk about Mr. Obama, we're talking about a man who took office at what was absolutely the worst time financially and economically that the country has seen for many, many years. The problems he faced would have been difficult to surmount under the best of circumstances with a cooperative Congress. And he certainly has not had that. Let's face it, there are those who are absolutely dedicated to undoing the man and making certain that nothing he says or wants can be implemented or come to pass. And these people who call themselves patriots don't care how badly they damage America as long as they can damage Mr. Obama and his reputation. So it's still going to be difficult. I think even if he's reelected, and like many people, I certainly hope that he will be, because I can't see that there's anyone else. Certainly the Republicans have not offered anyone else who I think has any viable alternatives for turning the country around. So we might as well give Mr. Obama a chance. And if the man had some cooperation and some help, perhaps he could do wonderful things. I don't know that I'm as hopeful and as optimistic as you. It would be, as I said, wonderful, but he's got a long uphill climb to the bottom.
You know what? I know what you're saying, but in response to President Obama, I gotta say he knew the job was dangerous when he took it. You understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that I
yes, he never
cannot
thought it
believe.
would be a piece of cake.
Yeah, but I cannot believe that he did not have some kind of plan before he entered into office. I mean, he surely had to know that he was going to come up against opposition. He surely had to know there were going to be some distractions. All of these things, I cannot believe that he was not prepared for. I can't believe that. So I got to believe that this guy is smarter than that. I cannot believe that he actually walked into office thinking that he was going to be President Obama and do all the things that George Bush did and presidents before him. He had a couple of things working with him. He was an African American, and you know what I'm saying. And he came up into a situation that was, like you said, worst of all time. I mean, 8 years of it. So I think that the American people are feeling like, look, you know, you're in there. We got you in there. You said you were going to make some change, and you knew the job was dangerous when you took it.
I think you're right, but as always happens, or as frequently happens, you know, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And I suspect that he either underestimated the level of resistance that he would meet, not just from the opposition, but even within his own party. And he simply has not been able to get out of the muck and the mire and to get things rolling the way that he and those who support him and understand the real need of the poor people in this country would like to see things go. I think he's a wonderful man, wonderful person, and a very good politician. But it's going to take more than he has been able to bring to the table or to bring to the battlefield to do it. Consider that he is just now, and only I think probably just because we're coming into an election year, he has finally gotten all the troops out of Iraq. Talk about big mistakes. I'm certain that when Mr. Bush got us in there, everybody thought we would be out within a year or two. And what is this, 9 years later? You know, we're finally drawing down our people. So those things are easily miscalculated, underestimated, et cetera, et cetera. And as far as fixing the economy, you know, we've got some problems that we are attacking in fundamentally the wrong way. You know, there's an old axiom that says when you discover you're in a hole, the first thing you do is to stop digging. And we have not done that. You know, we know that financially, that economically, we're in a hole, and yet we seem to keep digging and digging and digging. And no one can agree and find any kind of consensus on what really needs to be done or what might work. And there might be several different approaches, all of which are viable. And yet we have too much dissension among the parties to follow any one course of action and to implement it and stay with it long enough for it to be effective. And I just don't know how we can turn that around. Even a charismatic leader like Mr. Obama has not been able to muster sufficient support for his policy. And I don't think that he's going to be able to do that. If for no other reason than that big money is lined up against it. You were talking about the banks earlier. talk about big institutions and big money, you know, who other than the banks? You know, they embody corporate America. They are the very embodiment of corporate greed in America.
Absolutely. I don't disagree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But again, I say that if if indeed he gets 4 more years, and I'm really hoping that he does, because I would love to see him actually have some things that he wants to have done, actually see them go through. Um, as hopeful as I am of that, if he already knows the first 4 years that they're tying his hands, clearly President Obama is going to have to get another strategy.
I think that the strategy that he has would work if it could be implemented without the interference of a Congress that, in large part, does not want to see it work. We have to remember, and it may be a kind of cruel and sound like a vicious thing to say, but when you talk about the Congress of the United States, most of the people there are millionaires. They do not represent, and it is my position that they do not empathize with the common people, the poor people. I think the last time I looked, there were only 5 members of Congress who were not millionaires. 5. That's a pitifully small number. And to say that those people represent you and me and a lot of other people who are having it hard is a big, big stretch.
Well, I tell you one thing, Mr. Waldo. I still have to believe, and I still have to uh, uh, stay encouraged, because I know that it doesn't look good, but I do know, and I have to believe that what we have to do is, and I think the biggest problem with this whole thing is that once President Obama was elected as president, I think that the people got very comfortable and very laid back. I worked at the polls last year in November, and I'm telling you, I probably saw from 6 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, and from 9 to 9, I think I probably saw maybe all of 120 people to come out and vote. And
Wow.
and this was in Pasadena, downtown Pasadena, 120 people. So what we as people, as American citizens, I'm not talking about black, I'm talking about people, period. We need to vote for the other people to come in to support President Obama's decision. I think we just got lax with it. And I think that we just forgot that, we can't, I say, oh, like, oh, he's in there. No, he still needs the support of the people. He still needs the support of the Senate. He still needs the support of Congress. And if we don't put the people in place to raise their hand and say, yes, I agree with this guy, and yes, I think we should implement this program, then we're gonna be back to square one. But I gotta say again that being in office for the first 4 years, okay, I'm thinking that's kind of a trial run. You kind of a baby, you on training wheels, you get in the feel of being the president, blah, blah, blah. I am looking for President Obama to come out in the next 4 years swinging, punching, and I mean getting very serious with it. And if he doesn't get serious with it in these 4 years, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Well, I think you're right in that now is the time, if ever there was a time. Typically, the first 4 years, you're almost in a position of being a lame duck.
Right.
In that you spend so much time trying to put yourself in a position to be reelected so that the second 4 years, you can let it all hang out and do whatever needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Because you're no longer worried about being reelected. So maybe with that business of, will I still be in office, maybe with that off his mind, he will be in a position to give it all he has.
Yes.
Nevertheless, we cannot forget that there are still those who will do anything, and I do mean anything, to defeat his plans and his program. We have these people in Washington, D.C., named or called, they go under the name of lobbyists. And night and day, these people are trying to devise ways to further their own cause and the cause of their constituents and those who pay them money, and I mean big money, to peddle their influence. Most notably, I will point to, first of all, to Newt Gingrich, who has made buku bucks, as a lobbyist since he left office. And here's a man who I can't even believe that his name would actually come up for consideration. Forget his moral shortcomings. Normally anybody who's caught cheating on their wife 3 times, or who divorces their wife, I believe it was the second wife, who had cancer, and he divorced her. Here's a man who was censured, I believe it was 84 times. 84 times he was reprimanded and censored. And then finally, he was fined, I believe, $300,000, which he paid. And then the next time, they just kicked him out. But how could a man with that kind of record even draw serious consideration?
You know what? Again, it's the American people. But listen, some closing thoughts. We're down to 30 seconds, and we got to wind it down. But listen, Mr. Waldo, will you come back and we continue this conversation?
I would love to do that, Rick.
Great. I would love for you to come back, because I would love to get into that, because we're so forgiving. We forget. And just like you said, this guy, how could he even come up? And actually, people take him seriously. If you cheat on your wife, you more than likely will cheat on your taxes and everything else. That's my bottom line. But listen, it's been great. Thank you very much for coming, Mr. Waldo. I'm so glad we had this conversation. We are winding down. This is the holidays. You guys, please be safe. Be careful. There's a lot of things going on out there. There are people that are following the UPS truck, and they are actually seeing packages delivered and wait until they leave, and then they come and snatch the packages. So if you have some packages coming, have your neighbor keep an eye on them, or at least tell the parcel UPS to leave a note, and you will pick them up at the designated area, because people are coming and getting them. There are people snatching purses. There's a lot of stuff going on. People are desperate. They're doing crazy things, and you just got to be safe out there, okay? Listen,
thank you so much for having me, Rick.
Thank you so much, Mr. Waldo.
Thank you.
Oh, man, listen, I had a great time with you guys. Remember, as I said before, Cuisinart works. Do not buy any product by Cuisinart. Don't even buy it. It's a piece of garbage. They set it up with inferior products, and they want you to purchase them, and they're only going to last the time of the warranty, and after the warranty's over, they're going to break down. Don't waste your money. Let's start to do some research about products that are made right, okay? I'm Riq the Critic.
You might even find something made in America.
Thank you so much. Absolutely, Mr. Waldo. He said something made in America.